welcome everyone. We are going to tap into what it means to use our creativity when it comes to mental health. So we're going to go into this. And if at any point you have questions, please let me know. I want to have this be a conversational type of experience for you. So I'm not just here just talking to a PowerPoint. Cool? Okay. All right. Good. I like how everybody's in agreement. Okay. All right. So the essence of creativity. First, it's an ability. It's something that we work to strive towards. It's something that we can learn to do. So I also love Mary Lou Cook because she has a little spice to what creativity is. Creativity is inventing, experimenting, growing, taking risks, breaking rules. You say that to a teenager, they're like, yes, I want to be creative. Making mistakes and having fun. Okay? So when we think about creativity, and my brain specialist over here, Jacqueline, hi Jacqueline. When we think about creativity, it is not just one part of the brain. It's actually parts of the brain that intertwine with one another. So one is the executive control network, and that helps you pay attention and focus to things. So you may notice if somebody in your classroom, possibly, or even your own child, you're saying something to them and they're not focusing, that's something to help them do. And you can get them to a place where they can get into the state of hyper-focus. And that's when you'll see that creativity start to build even more. Then there's the default network. That's where we have this spontaneous thinking. And it's empathy, too, and it's how we make connections with one another. So the more community-based service that people can do, the more conversations people can have with people on the opposite side of beliefs, that's more of the empathy that can be built through that network. The next is the salience network. It is my favorite network. It's the network that when you sit at a piano and you're able to play chopsticks, you're like, oh my gosh, how did I remember that? Your brain sticks to it. Remember the movie Inside Out? And you're like, oh, we don't need that bubble gum commercial, right? And it's stuck in their head. And they're like, no, let's keep that. But all the other stuff we don't need, right? So that's what our brain does. It holds on to those things that you never know we may need, and it's packed back in there. So the more active that these networks are, the more creative you can be. So now, what are the mental health benefits? The mental health benefits are so many. So first, there's emotional release, right? When we can tap into the creativity, we can release all these emotions. It's something that we see all the time as creative arts therapists and our clients, that they have these moments where they're sitting in front of a canvas or they're listening to a song or processing a piece of theater, and they're like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. I can release this from my body. I can talk more about this now because I've tapped into this creative expression. Next is self-discovery and expression. I worked with teens in the inner city of Chicago, and a lot of the work that we did was just expressing themselves and realizing that there's so many other options out there than what they're seeing in their day-to-day life. So self-discovery was huge when we were putting these theater pieces together. Next is this dopamine release. Have any of you been involved in the arts, especially in a performance? Yeah? All right. Okay. I see y'all. Okay. There is a moment, right, when you step on stage, you're like, oh, this is so good. And when you get off stage, you feel really, really pumped. That's a natural high. That's the type of thing we want to encourage our youth to tap into as well. And then self-esteem. There is nothing better than somebody creating a piece of work and then witnessing it come to life, and then having other people witness it and then give it praise. Right? That builds up our self-esteem. Next is community connection, because when we create art, many times we do it within communities. Have any of you taken a pottery class lately? Yay, pottery class, right? And the sip and paints that are really popular now too, right? It is so much fun being able to sit in those places. And I remember taking my husband one time, and he was trying to paint a moon, and I was painting over here. And it was just a lot of fun because we were laughing at what we were able to do, what we weren't, and then looking at other people's pieces and making comments. And of course, my husband's buying everybody drinks, right? So it's that community connection. And then next is stress relief. It is so wonderful. I even did it in my car. I don't know if you saw me when you came in, but I was listening to music and singing to it, because there is just something so releasing when you can sing to music and just let that out and then you feel so good afterwards. So stress relief, that can be done through the arts and through tapping into creativity. So now I'm going to ask you all to stand up for a moment because we're going to tap into, you're like, why do we got to stand up? Yes, because you've been sitting down all day. And we're going to check into where your stress is. Because when we're stressed, it's so much harder to tap into creativity when you're stressed out. So first, let's look at these. We have hypervigilance is one of the biggest one. If any of you experienced the pandemic, right? We all went through that together. Even now, when somebody sneezes in the grocery aisle, I go down the other aisle because it just grosses me, especially if they just free spray, right? Yes, right, exactly. So hypervigilance is just being on guard, constantly looking around. The next one is poor boundaries, so lacking that sense of balance of boundaries, where maybe you're taking on too much, you're trying to step in and control events, you are taking work home and not being able to leave it at work. And then there's avoidance, coping with stress by shutting down and disconnecting. I like to play games on my phone. There's one called, oh gosh, what is it called? All I know is that you feed chickens and the chickens give you eggs and you can make bread and then you can sell that to the villagers. Like, it's so much fun. And I will get in there. And it's very great to just avoid what maybe you're feeling because you're like, I don't really want to feel that right now. So I'm going to feed my chickens. Okay? Next is inability to empathize or numbing. It's when we go through the day to day, and especially when things are really, really hard and stressful, and we then will push it away. We're not able to connect with it anymore. It's like watching the news and it's like, okay, all right, one more thing. The next one is addictions, and it's not just with substance use. It can also be with food. It can be with technology. So things that we use, again, as a type of avoidance, but it starts to become this thing that we have to do. Next is chronic exhaustion, physical ailments, right? When our body starts to ache, our stomach starts to hurt, headaches. Kids are really good at saying they're stressed out by telling you how their body's feeling. Mom, my head's hurting all the time. My stomach hurts. I don't feel good. Okay? Next is minimizing. My child calls this first world problems, right? When it's like, here's all these things that are going on in the world. Well, my problems aren't as bad, but there's still problems that you're dealing with. There's still challenges that you're facing. Next is anger, cynicism, and I like to add in here sarcasm. When you start to use that a lot, I noticed my sarcasm meter went up really, really high during the pandemic, and then it's coming back down. But that's something that we start to use in order to cope with the intense feelings we're having. And then the last one is feelings of professional inadequacy, not feeling like we're doing enough at work, or we're not feeling as confident as we used to while we were working before. So let's go through some blocks of creativity and what we hear a lot of our clients say of why they can't do art. Like, I'm not creative. So first is past experiences of like an art class or a music class. I grew up in, the school that I went to was a charter school. It was an all arts-based charter school. So all we did was create. And there was never judgment. But then when I met my other peers when I got into junior high and was no longer within that charter school, they all had these horrific experiences in elementary school being told to color inside the lines, or the papers that say red and only color red, but they wanted to color other colors, and then they got in trouble for using other colors with it. So all these things that start to compound an individual to feel like, oh, I shouldn't do this, or I can't do this. I was told not to. And they start to internalize it. Then there's the role of the artist, where they feel like they're not creative enough. You know, when you see an artist, what does that mean? Well, am I one of those? So tapping into what that means to each individual person can be different. And then there's the inner critic. Who has an inner critic? Everybody's hands. Yes, everybody has an inner critic, because there's so many times where we can be really hard on ourselves, where we can start to second guess how good of an individual we are, right? It's not just about being an artist, it's also about who we are as people. And then there's the need for approval. I just remember my kids when they drew something like, Mom, look, right? And then as I was trained in creative arts therapy, it's like, okay, I don't want to say it's lovely. They were like, oh, that's a really cute dolphin, and it's actually a duck, like, right? So really making sure that I'm giving that sort of approval, but then also that it comes from internally. And then the fear of failure. I actually really like to fail. I've learned to embrace it, but when I grew up, I was like the perfect child. That's how I was raised, to be the perfect child, right? So when I learned that failing was fun, it's so freeing. And then the next one is fear of the unknown. Sometimes we don't know what's going to come onto the page. We don't know what we're going to create. And sometimes the stuff that we can create can feel a little scary, right? Even for children too, because we just never know what's going to come out. Okay, so one way to get through this is just by setting up a space for yourself. So I want you to just take a moment and close your eyes, if you feel comfortable, and think of a place that makes you feel safe, that makes you feel warm and loved and supported. Translate into the other arts that you are more connected to. Another one is take a walk in nature. Again, when you can go out and just take a moment to yourself, listening to the birds. For me, I like to go work out and I've got my headphones on, but then there's other times where I'm just walking the dog. I'm like, oh, that's a cute little bird over there. What's going on over there? And especially when you walk with your dog is all over the place, recognizing all these different things. So recognize what your dog's recognizing with them. Bless you. Next is embrace diverse perspectives. There are so many times where I've gone into organizations and we don't have the same life views or sometimes even morals or ethics or values, whatever it may be. But I learned so much from those people about their why. And I learned so much how they express themselves so then we can learn a common language together. It's not easy, but you can learn so much about yourself and about another community in that way. Next is when you can, and I'm saying maybe even 2 minutes, 5 minutes if you can. It's like tapping into meditation at first, right? You're like, I sat there for a whole minute and I thought about nothing, but kind of. Versus, okay, now I got up to 5 minutes and thought about nothing, right? Warming yourself up to this creative practice. It can be taking a visual journal at the end of the day and just drawing how your day was. No words unless you want to, right? Or it could be just sitting and listening to music for a couple minutes. Just a song. Something to tap into that creativity. Also write it down. There are so many times that I have ideas and I know I cannot contain it into one moment, so I just write them all down. Oh, I really want to, explore this particular thing. Or, there was this pottery class that I saw and it looks really, really cool. Let me make sure that I go check that out. Okay, write it down. That way, it's not stuck in here. And then we've already got enough going on in our brains as it is, but when we can write it down into one particular location, it can keep us focused. And then the next, get out of your head. The way we do that is by moving our body. Just like we did here, this is called a spectrogram that you just did, when we can get out of our head and tap into our body more, going for walks, taking a dance class, that's a lot of fun, right? Anything that can get us moving, because when we're moving, we're not as much up here. When I worked with children who were in residential and inpatient psych, I would always take them out for a walk. They hated sitting in the office and talking to a therapist. Hated it, okay? Because they do it all the time, all day, every day. So when I can take them out or play basketball, I do not play basketball, by the way, and they thought it was really funny that I tried. But it was a way to get them out of their head, and they talked so much more just because we were moving at the same time as we were talking. Okay. So here are some other ways to tap into creativity. You can get influenced, right? There's so many things that can inspire us. I love watching movies or TV shows, and they give me so many great ideas of things that I want to explore. So there's tons of books out there, visiting other cultures, traveling, going to museums. There's so many concerts in Chicago and also out here in DuPage County. There's inspirational TED Talks. There's coming to something like this, right, to get some inspiration as well. And then also change your routine. Have any of you started to drive somewhere and realizing that you don't remember the last couple blocks? Yes, because our brain just goes on autopilot. And that's not a bad thing, right? That's just something that's like you're reserving energy, basically, when that happens. But when you can take a block out of your way, it's something different. On your regular walks, maybe go a different route. Okay? Travel to new places. There's tons of online courses out there. Keeping different hours too. That can also be helpful. And when I say keeping different hours, it's more of, okay, I do this every single day. What if I just go to lunch half an hour early? You will notice that if you go out to lunch, there's different people if you're at your regular spot. And then you meet new people, you see new people, and it's just something different that your brain starts to be aware of. Okay. So I love this quote, grow through what we go through. There are so many times when I've done an improv group, especially for teens with anxiety, and they are fearful, like literally shaking, physically shaking, to do improv because they don't want to make a mistake. But sometimes the best things come out of mistakes. I love it. There's Bob Ross who does the painting, right? And he's like, oh, there's a happy tree, a happy mistake, right? A line accidentally appeared there, and now what can that line become, right? And there's so many things that we go through in life, that our children go through in life, that we want to protect them. But when we protect them, they don't learn how to go through those things. And so when you say, okay, here's this challenge that you have, what are the many ways that you can handle it? And we've even acted this out at our dinner table. We're kind of odd as a family. But we sit there and we'll talk about the challenges that we have within the school. And some of the teachers that maybe they have to have some difficult conversations with because they're not quite sure what this particular assignment is. Or another example is they don't believe in what the teacher just said, and they want to come back to the teacher and say, well, this is what I learned. So how do you have those conversations? Well, act them out. Act them out literally at the dinner table. Say, okay, I'm going to be your teacher. All right? Now you tell me what you want to say. And then I will respond in how I just respond. And she's like, well, they would never say it. Okay, what would your teacher say? And just playing back and forth with that gives them just that muscle to fail with you, so then they can feel more successful when they go into those conversations. Mm-hmm. And they also get to get out the things that they shouldn't say. That's also fun too. Mm-hmm. So another way to tap into creativity is to start a new hobby or reconnect with an old one. My daughter started playing cello when she was in 4th grade, and we have the understanding that she's no longer going to play the cello going into sophomore year because now she's a band kid. And so I'm going to get her cello and start taking lessons with her old teacher. And I am so excited. Next year. Stay tuned. But it is just a way that when you can reconnect with something, again, like all those things start to come back. All the things back here that we were talking about, reconnecting those networks within the brain, that can be super helpful then. Rock climbing classes, cooking classes, start painting. There's thousands upon thousands of meetup groups to go do cool stuff, right? So when you can start something that feels a little scary because it's new, but also exciting, that again helps you tap into creativity. Okay. Also, battle procrastination. There's many times where like, oh yeah, I was going to start that thing and then I never did. These are ways that can help you. Taking a short walk, eliminating those interruptions again, closing the door, turn on a sound machine, then you know that the children are not going to come knocking. Prioritize one thing each day that you're going to tap into, and then break down those larger projects. If you want to, for instance, start making jewelry, maybe it's just taking one class just to learn how to put the pieces together, and then see how that goes. Okay? And then also treat yourself. I love this part. If you're going to do something that feels challenging or hard, and you've never done it before, treat yourself. So it can be, I like to take myself out and get a matcha latte. That's just how I treat myself pretty much every single day. Or it could be that I'm going to go to sleep 5 or 10 minutes earlier. That's a beautiful treat for yourself too, right? Okay, so let's assess our self-care practice. First is physical self-care. Because again, when we can make sure that our bodies are taken care of, our emotions are taken care of, then we can easily tap into creativity. So one is getting enough sleep, making sure you're doing fun movement. Notice how you didn't say exercise, right? Because then you hear exercise, there's all these different judgments that come on yourself. But fun movement. Maybe it's going out for a walk. Maybe it's yoga, maybe it is going for a dance class. Again, those are fun, and it's also connecting with community. There's also psychological self-care, so doing something new, noticing your own inner experiences or your dreams. I remember teaching theater at a high school, and it was my first year there, and the students loved the teacher beforehand, and because I was the new teacher, could not stand me. So my dream was driving this giant school bus with all of the kids in the back just yelling and screaming, and I was literally driving over houses. And then we finally got to our location. But that's what I was dealing with. So noticing what's going on internally when you're feeling overwhelmed or stressed out. Then there's spiritual self-care. So that's expressing gratitude, celebrating milestones, the little ones. Sometimes even with my clients, I'm like, you woke up and you took a shower. That's a milestone. That's a celebration. Listen to music, sing, nurture others. Then there's emotional self-care. Has there been a bit of time when you have watched a TV show and all of a sudden you start crying because you're watching it? You're like, wait, what is that? Why am I crying? Yes, this is sad, but something's coming up in me, right? And you start checking in like, what's going on? So it's important to let that stuff out. I share this with the teens that I work with, that when you shake up a bottle of pop and then you go to open it, it will explode, right? So if you shake up your emotions and hold it all in, and if you don't let it out little by little, your emotions will explode all over your teacher, all over your parents, all over your sibling. So we want to make sure we're letting that stress out. Another is workplace or professional self-care. So getting support from your colleagues, advocating for yourself, negotiating your needs, and also pursuing regular learning and professional development. Because I know when I'm burnt out, I love to just go to a conference and just learn things so I can start getting some other ideas to use with my clients. There we go. Okay, so for younger children, and I've even done this with teens, there are tons of books about emotions. And when we can tap into our emotions, we can easily tap into creativity. So these emotion stories, there's a few books here that I love. I Am Enough, After the Fall, and Can I Play Too? Can I Play Too is just absolutely precious because it's the snake that wants to toss this ball with the other ones, and the snake has no arms or feet or anything to catch it. So they're trying to figure out how to throw the ball to the snake. They just throw a bunch of the balls hoping that he'll catch it. They try to throw it really, really fast, and all these things just aren't working. And then eventually they just throw the snake, and the snake becomes the ball, right? So we can use books, stories, to process emotions and help people explore them. This can, again, help us tap into that creative piece of ourselves. The next one is a gratitude jar. This is something that you can take. You can do a plastic one if you have younger children, or glass, and you can even decoupage on the outside and decorate on the outside. And then each day, or however you want to do it, again, we want to make sure that it doesn't feel overwhelming, like every day I have to write a gratitude thing. Right, we don't want that feeling. We want just, when I feel grateful, I'm going to put what I'm grateful in this jar. And then at the end of the month or at the end of the year, you can go through all the things that you were grateful for. And it's just a really cool thing to share for yourself, actually, but then also with your family. So we have one that's actually by our front door. And my kids have, there's like these little Post-its that they can put in there, and they write the things they were grateful for. Sometimes it gets more full than others, depending on the month, right? But it's just great to go through. We usually probably go through it once a month, or just when it gets full, to go through it over the dinner time and just talk about them. And then this is my favorite one that I use everywhere. It's called the Flower Candle Breath, and it just teaches you how to relax yourself before you go into any creative space, right? Because if you go into a creative space and you're stressed, right? We've already learned this. It's harder for the brain networks to connect. So you can use this just with your finger. So let's even just try it. So imagine this is a beautiful flower, your favorite flower that you love to smell. And then you're going to take a deep breath in, smell the flower. And as you exhale, you don't want to blow the candle out, but you just want to flicker the flame. Good, one more time. Deep breath in, smell the flower. And as you exhale, flicker the flame. Good. Good. I see smiles again after that one. Yes. So if you want an actual physical representation, you can get just little fake flowers, little silk flowers from any store, and then one of the little tea lights, and you can tape them together. And then you can add maybe an essential oil so you actually smell the flower, and it adds that additional layer of the senses. And again, this is a great way to calm yourself down. I used to do it a lot when I worked at inpatient psych. I would see a kid start to get activated, like, where's your flower candle? Like, right? And you see them just try to take the breath, right? I'm like, good, what does it smell like? It smells like a rose. Okay, what does your rose smell like? Sweet, right? So the more you can tap into it, start to visualize it and connect it, the more we can relieve that stress and tap more into creativity. All right, so this, I believe, is the final thing. It's called Hold On To, Let Go. And so if you have a piece of paper, then you can do this, but you can also do this when you get home. So you would trace your left hand and trace your right hand, or if you have a small piece of paper, you can draw tiny little hands. And on the left side is let go, things that you want to let go of. And on the right side are things you want to hold on to. Okay, so left side, things you want to let go of. Right side, things you want to hold on to. And this is a great way to check in with yourself on your own stress levels of what do I no longer want to hold on to? Maybe I'm letting go of burnout. Maybe I'm letting go of a particular job or a particular responsibility within that job. Or I'm letting go of the stress that I'm putting on myself to be the perfect parent, right? That does not exist, right? So some grace for all of us, right? Right? And then maybe on the right, you want to hold on to quality time. Not quantity time, but quality time with family. Or hold on to my creative expression. Or hold on to my dance class that I love to hang out with my girlfriends, right? So those are things that you can, again, check into to see just a mini version of the spectrogram that we did to say, okay, I'm feeling stressed. This is what I need to let go of. And this is what I'm going to hold on to this week just to keep myself focused on what truly matters to me. Okay. I think that was it. Yes. So also, if you would like to connect, I love anybody who's ever come to any of my talks or that I've met out in the community to reach out to me. If right now, especially, it's really challenging finding a therapist. If you have tried that, it is very difficult just because of so many reasons of trying to hire people, trying to make sure that there's enough therapists to take on clients. So if you are running into that stressful space of just trying to find a therapist, please reach out to us. We have a whole community that we connect to, not just at our own center, but also at other places, especially if you need someone specialized in OCD, ADHD, anxiety. There are so many fabulous clinicians that we know have availability that we can connect you to. Thank you, everyone.